boys and girls, Mrs. Hales here with your next art lesson. Today we're going to start a 2-day project. So this will be our first day and it's called the Noisy Apartment Building. So I have a quick story for you to read about a noisy apartment building, and while you're reading, think about if you were going to create or draw your own scenes in different apartments. What would you have people doing in there? Or what would you make it look like in those apartment buildings, in those apartments?
Noisy Night by Mac Barnett. Pictures by Brian Biggs. Noisy Night by Mac Barnett. Pictures by Brian Biggs. What is going la 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 above my head? La la la. A man is singing opera above my head. What's going ma 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 above my head? Ma ma ma. A baby is cooing above my head. What is going ba 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 above my head? Ba ba ba. A sheep is speaking above my head. What is going ha 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 above my head? Ha ha ha. Cowboys are laughing above my head. What is going wah 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 above our heads? Wah wah wah. A girl is playing trumpet above our heads. What is going caw 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 above my head? Caw caw caw. A crow is squawking above my head. What is going rah, rah, rah above my head? Rah, rah, rah. Cheerleaders are cheering above my head. What is going cha, cha, cha above our heads? Cha, cha, cha. Cha, cha, cha. A couple is dancing above our heads. What is going blah, blah, blah above our heads? Go to bed! An old man is hollering. Click.
Some of you, if you live out in the country or if you live in a town like Ashland or in the suburbs, you may have never even been in an apartment building. In lots of cities, they make apartment buildings so they can get a lot of people living in a very dense or concentrated area. When I lived in New York City when I was younger, I lived in an apartment building, and I lived in different kinds of buildings. One of the buildings I lived in had, oh my gosh, probably like 200 or 300 apartments. And then I lived in a building that only had 2 apartments on each floor. So we probably only had like 8 or 10 apartments in that building. And there was a restaurant on the first floor. So there are different kinds of apartment buildings and there are different sizes. Some of them have elevators, some of them just have stairs. So they're all different, and they're usually found in cities, but sometimes you find apartment buildings other places too. The supplies you'll need today are 1 colored piece of construction paper in size 12 by 18, so that's the larger size. And then you'll need 2 more pieces of construction paper. One is 6 by 18, so that's the larger piece, 12 by 18, cut in half lengthwise, and that needs to be white. And then you can either use white or a different color on top of that for your building. And that also needs to be 6 inches by 18 inches. So you need a colorful piece of construction paper for the background, and then one piece of white, and then another piece of either white or another color. You need scissors, and you need a glue stick, and you need a pencil today, and that's it. Our goal today is to get your apartment constructed out of white drawing paper and construction paper, and get everything cut and glued together. And then if you have time, you can start drawing on your apartment building. But if not, we have plenty of time next week to draw everything we want to draw on our building. Let me show you how to get started constructing your buildings. I wanted to show you what the different pieces of paper are for so you don't get confused. So you need one long, skinny rectangle 6x12, and that's going to be the front of your building. So this is going to be the section that you cut for your windows and your door. Now, this could be white. If all you have is one large piece of white paper and you cut it in half, and then you have two 6x18 pieces of paper, your building can be white. And then the inside of your building can be white. You want the white piece of paper, if you can, to make the white piece of paper underneath the building, because that's going to be the inside of the building. So you kind of want that 6x12 piece of paper to be white, because then when you draw your pictures and you color it, you'll be able to see things better. And then you could make each room a different color, or whatever, however you want to color it is fine. So those are the two pieces of paper that you need, size 6x18. And then your background paper is 12x18. And in this case, mine is red. I've got one up here. I've got one somewhere that I'm not finished with, and the background is black. So it doesn't matter you can pick whatever color background paper you want. Okay, so that's three pieces of paper. 6x18, 6x18, and then 12x18. One of these papers should be white. Two of them could be white, if you want. Okay, you take the long, skinny rectangle, 6x18 inches, that you want to be your building, the outside of your building color. You take that and you fold it in half. And I like to line up my corners and my edges before I push down and make my crease. And then you're going to draw a door, so a rectangle on here, and then windows. Now, you could probably fit 5 windows and have them be a good size. They're going to be squares. And you want to leave the same amount of space in between those windows if you can. And then you're going to open up your rectangle, and you're going to cut your door. Now, I wanted a door that opens to one side for this project, so I cut the long side and the top of my door, and I folded back the other side. So you don't cut one side, that's the part that you fold back. So this is my door, and it opens going one direction. If you wanted a skinnier door that opens 2 directions, like a window with shutters, you would just cut on the fold. Then after you've drawn where you're going to cut your windows, you want to go ahead and make those cuts. Now, how deep into your fold, we're cutting into the fold, how deep into the folded side should you cut? You should cut about 1/2 inch or the width of your finger. So you could lay your finger down on the fold of your paper, and you could measure, and you could make your cuts that long. Just make your lines that long where you want to cut. Then you're going to open up your paper, and only where your windows are you going to cut on the fold, because this is going to be your window. Did you see I skipped that little section? That's the space in between my window, so you don't want to cut those. If you do, though, it's not the end of the world. We could always tape it shut with Scotch tape. So you can see the sections in between my windows, and then I'm going to flip it around so my door is at the bottom, and then I'm going to fold all of those shutters or curtains, whatever you want them to be, I'm going to fold those back. Your windows should be about the same size, and they should all have about the same size shutter if you've measured your finger properly. So in this building, I have 5 windows, and that gives you pretty good size windows. You could make 4 windows. I wouldn't make 6 or 7 windows or more. That would be too many windows. They would be too small. And then you wouldn't be able to draw anything that made any sense to anybody inside there. So I have 1 door and I have 5 windows. That's about what you should aim for, 4 or 5 windows in your buildings. Then I erased the pencil lines that I made, my guidelines for where to cut for my windows. I don't want the pencil lines to be showing on the outside of my building. Now I'm going to glue the back part of my building, which is actually the inside of my building. That's the solid piece of 6 by 18 inch white paper that I didn't cut out. I'm going to put glue on that, and I'm going to stick the front of my building, called the facade, F-A-C-A-D-E, of a building, or the front of the building. I'm going to stick that to the section that I glued. So now I've got my building almost finished. If you would like to cut a scrap piece of paper out to put at the top of your building as kind of like where the roof would go or the ornamentation on the building, you can do that in a different color, in a contrasting color if you want. Now that size of that piece of paper was about 1 inch thick by 8 inches long. Now I'm going to glue the back of this overall building, and when you use glue sticks, I really don't like glue sticks very much because sometimes they don't stick for a long-term project, but for paper, they work okay. And they're not bumpy like Elmer's liquid glue is. They won't leave your paper bumpy. So use a lot of glue stick glue on the back of your paper. This is the only time you'll hear me say use a lot of glue. And then glue that down to your colorful, larger construction paper background. Right, this is an up-close picture of me cutting my windows. Don't forget to leave that little space in between your windows and cut the square window out on the fold. Don't forget to write your name on your paper. I know there's a lot of steps to this, so I've listed them all out for you with a diagram that looks kind of like this of how and what to cut and where to cut. Remember, when you cut your windows, you want to cut about this far into your folded side, and that's about the width of your finger. So that's why I said make your marks right here about as long as your finger is wide. It's about 1/2 inch. All right, boys and girls, follow this diagram, and if you finish this early before class is over, you can start to draw pictures with pencil of what you want inside each of your windows to look like. I'll see you next class.